911, do you have an emergency?
Today on Rescue 911, a bicycle nightmare.
I didn't see the car.
A tragic collision could mean death for a young child.
Anybody call for an ambulance?
Be there as neighbors respond quickly to save a child's life. Then,
He was gonna try to beat the lawnmower.
a chilling riding mower accident puts a small town on full alert.
I didn't think there was a way in the world he would live.
On Rescue 911.
On October 9th, 1989, Kathy Swift was at her suburban home in Cheltenham, Pennsylvania, where her 8-year-old daughter, Vicki, and her son, Stephen, were playing together. But before the day was over, they would discover that a split second of carelessness can forever change a life.
I don't think any parent has gone through any single day and has not said, don't run in the house.
Stephen, Vic, will you take that outside, please? Yo, guys, I said outside.
I had one of the koosh ball things, and Vicky wanted it. I said, if you want the ball, you gotta come and get it. Just had it in my hand and started running. She came in and got her bike, and then Vicky was chasing me out in the street. I didn't see the car. The only time I saw the car was when it stopped.
Vicky!
She had her mouth open and she was turning her head and she was moaning. I was scared.
While the driver sat stunned in her vehicle, neighbor John Hopper, an off-duty firefighter, responded to Stephen's cries for help.
Mom!
I ran over and there she was laying in the street.
Vicky, honey, Vicky!
There was gas just gushing out of the back of the parked car where her bike went up and punctured the gas tank.
All right, hold on now, babe.
I made the decision that I had to move her because the gas was pouring down so bad that, God forbid, a spark or something would have hit. I said we would have all been in trouble.
We're gonna take on 3.
So that's why I mobilized her head and had Bobby pick her up underneath the middle of her body.
When we continue,
I could feel my heart pounding, just thinking, oh my God, don't let her die.
Come on, Vicky.
I could feel my heart pounding, and I could feel my feet hitting the sidewalk as I ran. Just thinking, oh my God. It's almost like life stops.
Vicky's father, Stephen, had been taking a nap when he was awakened by his son's screams.
Go ahead.
I was trying to convince myself that she was going to be okay. It's just a little bruise.
Anybody call for an ambulance?
I just knelt down to her and held her hand and said, she's going to be all right because Daddy's here.
Come on, stay with me, babe. Come on. Come on, babe. Stay with me.
Nobody let me go to Vicky. Nobody let me see her. But Sue caught me, and my first question was, is she breathing?
And I, in fact, lied to her and said, oh, I'm sure she's fine, and really I did not think she was. My first thought was I thought she was dead.
Within 5 minutes, Cheltenham emergency and fire rescue units arrived on the scene, including EMT Harry Hall.
The anxiety level just increases incredibly, especially when it's a child that gets hit by a car.
She's still got 10 feet.
Is she conscious or
No,
unconscious?
no, she's drifting in and out.
We found that there was a laceration behind her ear. There was a golf ball size hematoma on the left forehead.
I didn't take nothing off.
And when you have an unconscious victim, you never know how serious the injuries are. You can only assume the worst.
Come on, Vic. Come on, Vic.
There was no movement, and we also noticed a sign of posturing. So we needed to get her into the hospital as soon as we could.
Got a large laceration on the back of her head.
I remember pleading with everybody that I knew to pray for her.
Come on, Vic.
And I remember just crying and saying over and over and over, don't let her die.
When 8-year-old Vicky arrived at Abington Memorial Hospital, a trauma team was waiting, including nurse Nancy Hess.
A lot goes through your mind as a mother and as a nurse. You start thinking along the lines of, this could be one of my children, or where are my children right now?
1, 2, 3.
Because Vicky was having trouble breathing, she was put on a ventilator. X-rays and a CAT scan were taken to determine the extent of her injuries.
She's doing, but right now she looks okay and doesn't look that badly injured.
We knew she had a skull fracture. They weren't sure about her ankle. And we thought, boy, we lucked out.
The doctor had asked to see us again and told us that she had slipped into a coma.
The results of the CAT scan showed that Vicky had a critical head injury.
You're jubilant for the good news, and then all of a sudden they drop a bomb on you.
Vicky was transferred to Children's Hospital of Philadelphia, where she was examined by the director of the trauma unit, Dr. John Templeton.
After she was here, we determined that she wasn't wearing a helmet.
The main concern is
that told us that all of the force was transmitted directly against her skull and therefore against her brain as well.
Vicky was put under the care of neurosurgeon Anne Christine Duhame.
The thing that one worries about the most is pressure inside the head, caused by swelling of the brain.
Because of the injury.
And that is a serious problem that we have to work very hard to control.
You know, we talked about those pressure waves. We're beginning to see some.
Her initial pressure was okay, but over the next 24 hours, it began to go up in spike waves.
That night, around 3 o'clock in the morning, the doctors and the nurse came in to notify another parent that their child had just died. And at that point, I said to myself, oh my God, when's it my time?
No, we don't want you to.
If she had a period where the pressures went up and in spite of everything we couldn't control them, then she would have gone on and become brain dead.
I just felt like everything just disappeared. And I didn't know. Is she gonna be normal? Is she gonna be all right?
She's not doing that now. In fact, she's acting much more normal.
After 2.5 weeks, Vicky showed real signs of improvement.
I just had this feeling come over me, like a big sigh of relief. You know, how you take a big cleansing breath and everything's cool and calm. And I said, she's gonna be good. She's gonna be fine. There's nothing gonna be wrong with her. She's gonna recover.
Vicky underwent a year of therapy to improve speech and motor skills affected by the injury to her brain. 3 years after the accident, her recovery is remarkable.
People marvel when they see Vicky today and then they hear her story. And sometimes I think, was it real? Because Vicky is so good. She brings this exuberance to life. She's the kind of girl who you know is going to get somewhere in life. Because I don't think she's gonna let anything stop her. Yeah, it does.
I'm surprised it still holds it up.
Yeah, I know.
In school, I'm doing pretty good. I like to read, and when I grow up, I want to be a teacher and an author.
The last real ringing of any consequence occurred on February.
I was happy that she came out all better. Well, she's still not the perfect sister.
Years after the second crash.
If I had to rate her from 1 to 10, I'd probably say about a 9. There's still things she has to work on to be a 10.
Nobody nobody comes through an injury like this completely the same person that they were. Vicki is awfully close, and we're delighted. But I don't think it's fair to minimize that she's had a serious injury. And while she has recovered, lasting effects may show up later. The only really good treatment for a brain injury is to prevent it from happening in the first place.
In 1991, the American Trauma Society selected Vicki as a spokesperson and poster child. Together with the Safe Kids campaign, they promote the importance of bicycle safety.
There has been a drastic change in our little community here. Before Vicki's accident, I never saw anybody with a helmet. And now even the littlest guy on the littlest two-wheeler had a helmet on his head.
I like being outside riding my bike and roller skating. And I wear my helmet so if I fall and my head hits the ground, I know it won't get hurt because I have my helmet on.
Bike helmets that meet safety standards have been shown to reduce the risk of brain injury by almost 90%.
I wouldn't wish the guilt of not having a bicycle helmet on anybody. And if because of my ignorance or my negligence, she would have died, I couldn't have forgiven myself. Kids balk at them. There's no doubt about that. But as a parent, that's your responsibility, to teach your children and to protect your children. No helmet, no bike.
Next.
I thought Stacy's on the other side of the swing, Daniel was up in the swing, and I thought they were safe.
On June 7th, 1991, in Mountain Grove, Missouri, Jim Shepard and his wife Ethel were looking after their two young grandchildren.
Ethel, she's a very overly protective grandmother. Her preference was not to leave them in the house unattended.
Daniel, he would run up to the side of the moor when I wasn't even aware that he was there. And it had just scared me terrible.
Oh, go back and play with your sister.
And so I had sent him back up there and would tell him, don't come back down here now. If you want Grandma to do something, wave at me. I thought, Stacy's on the other side of the swing, Daniel was up in the swing, and I thought they were safe.
I was holding the swing back when my grandma was coming. He was gonna try to beat the lawnmower.
The next thing I remembered, I was standing against the pole. And I had a hold of the handlebars and I was trying to raise it up off of him.
Oh my God.
Daniel's older brother Larry rushed outside to help.
I heard Stacy scream and I seen Larry. Well, you could see bone. I mean, you could see it was just sticking out.
I couldn't think of anything only just other than, dear God, help us.
I knew he was still alive, and then I saw the blood begin to squirt. And that's when I knew I had to stop the bleeding.
A St. John's ambulance was immediately dispatched.
Grandma, he said, you're hurting me. And I kept telling him, Daniel, Grandma don't want to hurt you, but we've got to not let that bleed.
Grandpa, go wait for the ambulance up by the road, hurry.
Oh, God, what'd they say, Larry?
There was just a sick feeling just right in the very pit of your gut there that all of the bone and everything had been just chopped and eaten away by the mower blade.
I began to pray and ask the Lord to give me strength to keep it shut off and that he would make it.
As I pulled into the driveway, I could see the grandmother holding the child. And as I approached, it was obvious that we were dealing with something that was very life-threatening.
Okay, Glenn, call the bird. Okay.
While paramedic Bubba Shaw began treating the little boy, his partner Glenn Buckner radioed for a helicopter.
32 to base 2. Would you please put Hammond's lifeline in the air?
Okay. Everything looks all right.
Her blouse was blood-soaked, and I knew that the child had lost a great deal of blood volume.
Okay, I've got the leg.
Her mind was so focused on saving that child that we literally had to pry her hands free of the child in order to take him from her.
Okay, okay, Grandma, let go of him, Grandma.
My fingers was just so tightly locked around his leg that I was trying desperately to turn loose of it, but it just seemed like they wouldn't function properly.
Tourniquet out of the jump bag, Keith.
We're doing everything we can. You're just going to have to bear
His level of consciousness was decreasing rapidly. And his chief complaint at the time was that he was cold. You know, by that time, he was really starting to go into shock. I looked over at the grandma and I said, "Do you have a dryer in your house?" She said, "Yes." And I said, "Would you please get 4 or 5 towels and put it on high for about 4 minutes?"
We're going to warm you up real quick, hero.
It was just a sinking feeling inside. I didn't think there was a way in the world that he would live.
We got all kinds of equipment on you right now, don't we?
You see things that horrify you all the time.
You ever been on a helicopter before?
Because it's a child. It makes me want to cry. It brings out emotions that you tried not to let the public or your coworkers see.
Okay, we're going to cover you up with some good hot towels.
We took the sheets off, put the warm towels, and they were really, really warm. Put them on top of him, covered him up, and just like in 2 minutes, he was no longer cold. His color was improving. But we'd also infused like 400 mils of fluid into him at the same time.
That's the helicopter landing right now, okay?
You're going to be
Just a little bit noisy, it's no big deal.
It's very hard to work on a child that you know may not make it.
And the family was there, and they were like, "My God, what has just happened?" Because it happened so quick, you know. And after the little boy left, that's when it all really started sinking in. And I know for a fact that I gave Grandma a hug and thanked her for being so strong. And that when they drove to the hospital, they didn't drive safely and just take their time.
A call was placed to Daniel's parents to inform them that their son was being airlifted by Lifeline to St. John's Hospital, 65 miles away. There, a trauma team was awaiting his arrival, led by Dr. Rosellen Meistrick.
Tell me how this happened.
He had lost a significant amount of blood at the scene and a lot of the muscle, so it was a very devastating injury for that child.
Dr. Meistrick told Daniel's parents, Louise and Dennis Prock, that there was no hope of saving their 6-year-old son's leg.
Plastic surgeon, I've been trained in replant.
It just seemed like I was just in a nightmare. I didn't know for sure if he was even going to die. I didn't really know what to say to him. I was just shocked. My nerves just seemed like they just wanted to fly out of my body, you know, when that happened.
Daniel's left leg was amputated just below the knee. He was hospitalized for 9 days. During his recovery, he was often visited by the paramedics who'd helped him that day.
Hi.
Hi.
Hi, Daniel.
How you doing?
I'm doing good. How are you?
Hi, Bubba.
It's good to see you.
Every time we went to St. John's, we'd sneak away for 5 minutes and see Daniel.
How's he doing?
Glenn and I got you a little present. It's a helicopter, just kind of like the one that you flew in.
Daniel is so strong, he has the courage of 100 men. He's going to be okay. I mean, he lost a limb, but he didn't lose his life.
Oh, look at that.
If the grandmother had not controlled the bleeding, Daniel would have died before we got there. There's no question in my mind about it.
Did they say when he might be able to go home?
I really, really feel that what Bubba and I done was out of instinct and training.
That's really good. Get out of here. Okay.
And the true heroics belongs to the grandma and the little boy.
Can the little boy chant?
He looks at me and he says, "Mom, will I be able to walk again?" And I said, "Sure, you'll be able to walk again." And he said, "How am I going to do that? Is God going to grow me another one?" And I said, well, I certainly believe he could. We're going to get you an artificial one for right now. And he said, okay.
Daniel was fitted with an artificial leg. A year has passed.
This just hasn't really slowed him down any. If anything, I think it's made him more active. We had gone to Columbia and stopped at the Capitol building, and I said, Daniel, you've got to slow down. Grandma cannot keep up with you going up these steps.
Every year, more than 10,000 people are injured in lawnmower accidents.
Children should not play around lawnmowers. You can die.
She's got all she can take out of there. Oh, he's a loving little guy. He can get you by the neck and give you a big hug and a kiss, and it just, you know, it really gets you to the heart.
The real handicap in people comes from how they feel about themselves, and if he thinks he can do it, he could do anything he ever wanted to do.
Step out of the car, please.